Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?
Man, shut your...
What is the most important element in any show? That's right, the characters. These guys are your heart and soul of any story. The only reason we care about the plot and other elements is because we want to see how it'll affect our favorite characters. And as you saw from the title of this video, anime knows how to make great captivating characters, whereas modern Hollywood seem to forget. So I broke down the 4 main reasons Hollywood fails at writing good characters compared to anime, with the 4th and final one being so bad, so make sure to stay till the end. But without wasting any more time, let's hop into the first one. First and foremost is the way Hollywood seems to only know how to make shitty derivatives of more successful characters from the past. Some examples could be She-Hulk, Rey, that female Iron Man, Snow White, etc, etc. Not only are these characters worse than their predecessors in every way, they for some reason have the balls to also make these losers insult what came before them.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
Now, before anyone says that, no, these characters aren't worse because they're women or something. It has nothing to do with gender. Because if you look on the side of anime, there's a plethora of goated female characters that everyone loves. But the best example to prove my point is the girl from the Marvel show Ironheart. Let me set the stage for you. The year is 2008, and Iron Man comes out as the very first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We spend over a decade with this beloved character that is arguably the face of your entire franchise, and at the very end of it, he has the most noble, tragic, sacrificial scene, beating Thanos, bringing an era to a close. A few years go by and you've decided to pass on the torch to a new, younger female Iron Man. These are massive shoes to fill with one of the most beloved characters in cinema. I'm certain she was honored to take his place and treated him with the most utmost respect.
Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?
And with one singular line, it derailed this entire project, dooming it to fail. If you are going to introduce a new character like this, insulting what literally made this character career even exist, spitting on the millions of fans in the process, is not the move. Also, I know it's been memed endless amounts of times, but if you're gonna insult him, at least get your facts right. What do you mean he wouldn't be him without being rich? He's rich because he's Tony Stark. This man built a super suit in a cave with a box of scraps, like hello. Another example of just shitty derivatives, the wildly successful TV show of She-Hulk. Once again, you are the byproduct of one of the most iconic loved superheroes of all time. You yourself in this Marvel universe know that he saved the planet and universe countless times. The least you could do is give him the respect he deserves. But when trying to train her and how to control her anger as a Hulk, this is her response.
And regulate your emotions, especially your anger.
So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Oh my god. Once again, the new monkey derivative that no one likes has writers trying to hold her up by putting down what came before her. Do you know what we call people who insult others to try to bring themselves up? A bully. Hollywood is trying to sell you on these characters being strong and independent, but it just comes off as cold and obnoxious. Now, let's look at a similar example in anime and how it's done much better. The example I'm going to talk about is All Might and Deku from My Hero Academia. In the universe of My Hero, just like Iron Man or Hulk, All Might is a hero that everyone loves and adores as the symbol of hope. Then he passes his powers down to Deku to inherit his power and basically become the next version of himself as the symbol of hope. But unlike the last two, he's beyond honored to have this chance to carry on the torch, as he swears he'll do his very best to live up to the expectations of his predecessor before him. And unlike She-Hulk, refusing to listen to Hulk anytime he tries to give her advice, our boy Deku just sat, listening to every word All Might said as a true show of admiration and respect. Just off the first few episodes with this, he already comes off as a lot more humble and likable than his Hollywood counterparts. If My Hero was written by Hollywood instead of Deku, they would have
put a chick in it, make her gay.
And then the second she got One for All, unlike Deku, they would have had her master the ability on the first try. Oh, speaking of mastering something first try, that brings us along to our second point. Our second issue when it comes to Hollywood's inability to make captivating characters comes from making Mary Sues. Now, what is a Mary Sue, you may ask? Google's definition is a fictional character who is unrealistically perfect, overwhelmingly powerful, and lacks meaningful flaws or personal growth. Some examples include characters like Marvel's Captain Marvel or Star Wars' Rey, as mentioned before. Hollywood these days just writes these main characters as unstoppable girl bosses who never can lose a fight and is nearly always morally aligned in some way to what the author deems to be perfect. The problem with this though is, how do you relate to a character that is just perfect, never grows, never loses? A great character must always be flawed in at least one way, so that one, they come across as human, and two, it gives them the ability to grow and evolve throughout your story. But Rey from Star Wars is definitely the best counterexample to this though. She somehow easily learns the Force way faster and better than Luke ever did. She beats this super powerful Sith in a lightsaber duel, even though she was super new to this, and it was like one of her first times wielding a lightsaber. And then finally, she just always makes the correct moral decisions, not changing as a character hardly at all from the span of all 3 movies. Then we have Captain Marvel, who once again loses 0 fights and is just magically the best and strongest hero, because why not? Now if we look at anime on the other side of the fence, 2 great characters that are amazing examples of characters not being Mary Sues are Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen and Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. Firstly, starting off with Yuji, he starts off as an ignorant, optimistic, happy character that thinks he's invincible and can save everyone. But as the series goes on, he's constantly forced to watch people close to him die because of his own weakness in terms of strength, or his weakness in terms of suppressing a demon within him from harming others. This insane amount of guilt and sadness placed in him nearly breaks him to the point where even he believes he killed these people because of his own weakness. Obviously, we know this isn't true, but seeing him carry all this guilt around breaks our heart, and it causes a spark with the audience to feel sympathy and empathy for our boy. It also gives the audience something to relate to. Now, obviously, none of us can relate to his specific case, but we can relate to the feeling of messing up and it causing others harm, so we empathize. Another great case is Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. He started the story out as the most schizophrenic, angry, violent, emotionless animal, and then slowly throughout season 2 we get to watch him realize the errors of his past, come to terms with it, and want to become a better person for the future. Seeing this type of growth is also great in a story because it's very motivational for the audience to watch someone make such great developments to their character. Now, let's once again imagine Yuji's scenario written by Hollywood. Firstly, they'd replace him by putting
A chicken it, make her gay.
and then she'd never lose a fight while laughing and belittling Sukuna for even attempting to take over her body. Also, you may be wondering why I keep showing this South Park clip, and that's because of our third reason that we just sadly can't ignore. Now, just real quick to get out of the way, when I say political agenda pushing, I am not just referring to the left. Having politics pushed down your throat and watching something, whether it be from the left or right, is absolutely unacceptable and just so fucking annoying. People just want to watch their favorite shows to escape the real world and just enjoy a fun story without being lectured on what they have to believe in. Now, the examples I will be mainly using is the left, but that's only because Hollywood is extremely liberal, not because I'm choosing a side, left or right. And I can't stress this enough, but this point is I'm not left or right. It's politics versus no politics. But modern day Hollywood just seems to be an experiment to see how hard they can lecture their audience versus telling a good story. Even the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, recently came out and said they've been focusing too much on political messaging rather than just telling a good story that everyone can enjoy. It's very obviously politically charged when they always race swap characters from white to black, but never vice versa, or man to woman, but never vice versa. Once again, the average person has 0 issues with black or female characters. Just looking into the Spider-Verse, the main character is Miles, and he's the GOAT. It's not even like race swapping in and of itself is so bad. The problem is when they do swap races or gender, their character fundamentally changes to be more about their diversity than just being the character. Disney or Hollywood will make a character black instead of white, then want all the characters to treat them differently because of their race rather than their character, which ironically directly contradicts Martin Luther King Jr.'s actual goal of being treated by the content of one's character versus their skin. But if you look at anime on the other end, there are all sorts of badass characters from every color and sexuality you can imagine, but it's just part of them. It's not their defining trait. I've never done a video like this, so hopefully you understand what I'm saying. As you can imagine, this topic's kind of like trying to traverse a minefield, but I'm trying to do my best. But at least being a white male myself, most movies nowadays don't even try to hide it, with all the female or non-white characters being the goated perfect heroes, while the white guy is either the evil villain or a bumbling fucking idiot. And honestly, it's just weird to even do, because when you introduce politics in any form of media, you're immediately alienating 50% of your audience, which is just brain dead from a business point of view. Like, on the other end of the spectrum, you have Daily Wire making their own right-wing TV shows that are hilariously bad, and they just agenda push as well. I saw a video on this one show. Let me try to find the clip.
Being taken as a slave is better than being killed, no? I don't see the problem.
What did he say?
Bro, what? We're trying to push that slavery wasn't that bad. Insane, bro. But then in the anime side of things, they never push political agendas on either side of the spectrum. Some great examples of how to write diversity in shows is actually Jujutsu Kaisen once again. And people don't give it enough credit, but it actually does handle some politically charged topics, but with much more grace and smart writing than from Hollywood. A perfect example is a character we met in the recent season, Kirara. It's not 100% confirmed, but heavily implied that this is a trans character. But instead of making that her whole personality and have her go on a speech about how trans people are mistreated and blah, 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 it's just never even mentioned. By not mentioning it, for once you are actually treating these characters like normal human beings instead of walking labels. Kirara isn't the trans character, she's just herself. Kirara. By treating characters differently by their race, gender, or sexuality, you are actually creating the opposite effect that you're trying to get. And there are plenty more like her all over different animes. Characters that are black, women, disabled, etc., etc. And no one in the cast treats them like some sort of exotic creature. They are just themselves. Now, this isn't me saying you can never talk about these issues, but if you do, you gotta be smart enough about it and not come across like you're lecturing or preaching. Once again, surprisingly, Jujutsu Kaisen actually has a perfect example with Nobara. Genuinely one of the most underrated fights in the series. Momo comes flying, hitting her in the face with a broom, and starts talking about how a scar can be good for guys, but not for girls, and starts trying to lecture Nobara on how women in society are expected to be skilled and beautiful. Then she says she doesn't care about men versus women and that she loves dressing up looking beautiful and also loves herself when she's strong. It was a pretty quick interaction, but the meaning behind it was pretty great. Basically, it's her saying she doesn't really care about societal norms, and that even though she's a woman, she loves and is secure enough in herself that whether it's doing traditionally feminine or masculine things, she's still happy. Simple, but it's great messaging for young girls that you can be whatever you want, not just what society says you should or shouldn't be. This is how you do messaging without it coming off as preachy or annoying. If this exact scene was written by Disney or Hollywood, Nobara's response would have been something along the lines of, "Yeah, Momo, you were so right. Women are unfairly treated in society, and it sucks because we as women are so much more better and capable than men in every way." I think the biggest takeaway for this point is that in Hollywood, it feels like the character is diverse for the sake of being diverse. Where in anime, they just happen to be diverse, but it's not the focus on their character. But now for our final point. What's worse than just having a shit character? The answer is bringing back old characters for the sole purpose of greed and then ruining them. Some big ones include Luke Skywalker, Thor, Indiana Jones, fucking Captain America. These characters cannot rest even when their stories are beyond over, and on top of it, half the time they get completely ruined when bringing them back. The biggest example of this is the sequel trilogy of Star Wars with Luke Skywalker. In the original trilogy, he was the shining symbol of hope to save the universe from the dark side. He was a super optimistic soul that never gave up on Leia or Han Solo, and even when Vader cut his arm off, killed thousands, helped to destroy planets, and having Yoda and Obi-Wan tell him that he was too far gone, he still had faith there was good left in his father, which ultimately helped Vader make the decision to redeem himself, killing Palpatine, bringing balance to the Force as he was destined to do so. Yet, in the sequel trilogy, he sensed the tiniest bit of darkness in Ben Solo and thinks about killing him, and when the kid wakes up, he gets mad, turning to the dark side. Then he goes to retire in isolation, refusing to help the Resistance or train Rey. You know it's bad when even the actor himself was annoyed and hated the script, saying Luke would never do that. And even worse, in the final movie, they added the "somehow Palpatine returned" line, completely negating the sacrifice Anakin made for the universe in order to take him out the first time. Completely awful. If you must bring a character back, at least don't completely slaughter all their character development just for fun. But it still gets worse when you realize the MCU will be bringing back characters they previously killed off using the multiverse excuse. Like, Jesus Christ, this man Steve Rogers fought for his country for over 100 years, saving the planet and universe multiple times, but they will not let him rest for a new movie because, well, money.
Am I really gonna defile this grave for money? Of course I am!
What they did with Luke, they literally did the same thing with Indiana Jones, John Connor from Terminator, and many others. They even make a joke about it in Deadpool and Wolverine about how they'll be playing these characters until they're 90, and honestly, I wouldn't really be surprised. But when looking on the anime side of the spectrum, once again, I really can't think of any great examples where this ever happens. Occasionally there are side stories afterwards to continue on the story, but it rarely feels soulless or only existing for the sake of making money, and they damn for certain don't bring back characters just to delete all their previous writing. I want you to imagine them making a manga after Dragon Ball ends, and a character travels to King Kai's planet one way or another. We see Goku 100 years from now as a fat, cynical old man who tells the kid that training is stupid and strength doesn't matter. Like, you are killing everything they stood for. And it really perplexes me why Hollywood still makes these mistakes I listed in the video, because with how many projects of theirs flopped recently, you'd think they'd take a step back to look in the mirror, but I guess they just are too arrogant or something. But yeah, that's more or less the video on why anime understands how to write characters, whereas Hollywood and Disney don't. To recap, we have making original fun characters instead of Temu direct downgrades from previous better projects, making characters flawed and not all powerful so we can relate to and root for them instead of OP Mary Sues who are just always perfect, writing diversity and messaging into a story in a natural way instead of trying to shove your politics down people's throat, and finally, never bastardizing or keeping a story in longer than they need for the purposes of money. All four of these reasons are why anime succeeds at making loved, captivating characters versus the slop Hollywood churns out. And yeah, I'd say that's more or less the takeaway of this video. Love. You can tell in mainstream anime that every character was made from a place of actual love and excitement to truly create special cast of characters, or on the Hollywood side, it just feels soulless and completely void of any actual love for these characters. So yeah, if you agree or like this video, like and subscribe, as it helps a lot. This is obviously a different style than I usually do, but I thought it'd be fun. Once again, thanks to Goat Yuri and Harley for being in our special grade tier of our Patreon, and yeah, see you guys in the next one. Peace.